With apologies to Mario, Zelda and Metroid, the Famicom/NES didn't get really good overall until 1987, and first out of the gate was Tori by Konami. Tori is a manga by Osamu Tezuka, but the game is actually based on the anime movie that was released in 1986. There was also an MSX game based on the same thing, which was a 2D shooter, but this is automatically better because it's a platformer. The object of the game is to beat all 16 stages and collect parts to complete an engraving of the Phoenix, at which point something good will happen. Besides the usual jumping and shooting, the game takes inspiration from Solomon's Key with how you can push down and B to create blocks, with which you can then create makeshift ladders to get over gaps in enemies. Which is good because the jumping isn't that great, it's kind of stiff, and jumping over enemies usually doesn't work. Blocks are limited, but you can get more from killing enemies or from treasure chests. You will notice how these chests are sometimes placed where you seemingly can't get to them, like high up or down. But then you find out that you can spawn blocks as you jump as well, and then things start to get interesting. There are also breakable blocks here and there which you can break either by shooting or by ducking and jumping on them 3 times. In said treasure chests you get items like the mirror that makes you invincible for a while and able to run through blocks, so be careful. If the effect runs out at the wrong time, your only option is to use select, the suicide button. The feather that makes you invincible but kills enemies as you run into them, a necklace that freezes enemies in place, a seashell, I think, that extends your life bar, and onigiri that refills health completely, which is usually placed somewhat near the seashells, which is nice. Then there are the bags that give you points. The game starts in Yamato, then after beating 7 stages you get sent back to the first. What? Well, you need to find portals to warp to the other levels. Early Famicom games really loved warping. There are 2 other sets of stages, the future and prehistoric times. Then you have to find one more warp to get to Yamato 8, the last stage. Most stages end with a boss fight, but some don't, instead having obstacles like the area being destroyed and you have to get the engraving before it drops. None of the bosses are very hard, at least if you use the blocks right. The graphics and music are quite good and lives up to the standards of 1987 Konami, but the main character reminds me of Big Nose the Caveman. The Yamato stages have a certain something to the graphics, where it looks kinda like a painting. I don't know how to explain it, but what I'm saying is I like it. The only thing I don't like about the game are these jumping fish, they're really annoying. Tori is another good game that didn't come over to us Westerners. The block mechanic works well in a platformer, and the warp hunting can be handled by the age-old method of looking at a long play on YouTube. It's also a very cheap game, so track it down and enjoy it.